Morning everybody and welcome back to Hyrule, where today we are doing week 12 of building Hyrule Castle in Lego minifigure scale from Breath of the Wild, and we're back again in the lockup in the Hylian Shield room, and you can clearly see that progress has been made. So if I do our little zoom out and our pan up, you will see that we now have a complete oval arena that's maybe looking a bit more squished than it has to be, but I think we're okay. Let me know what you guys think of this down below, of course. So, since last week, where we talked about the techniques, I then completed the other side of this oval, which in the end was a copy and paste, and you really can't tell, because most of the wall is identical. I flipped some masonry bricks around, and I changed a little bit of rock work, but nothing much. Once again, I left it here, however, it could always go higher if we need it to. But I also added a couple of details to the floor. So, bearing in mind, we come down the steps from the entrance, and in the centre you have the little platform here, which the Hinox would have been lowered down on back when it was trapped here. And I'm thinking that when they recolor the new dots bracelet charm piece, which looks like the end of a chain, I'll be adding some of those on here just so that it looks a little bit cooler. I think it'll be a nice touch that will make a lot of sense. Either way, we've got this platform here, which is obviously crashed to the floor, but would once have come in from the ceiling. But that's besides the point. We still need to do the baby Hinox, which will be coming at some point soon. And you've also got the little pedestal here, which I ummed about the scale of. I decided on 1x3 in the end, and I feel like we can maybe do some decorations here at some point later down the line. Either way, this is just a tablet that tells you about the Royal Guard's trial and how to pass, and then your reward. I'm not going to put the chest in for this one because obviously this is pre-calamity, not post-calamity. However, I think it looks really, really polished with its tiled floor. I think maybe it needs another couple of details, but again, let me know what you guys think of that, and maybe we'll come back in the future. But this room is not really what we're here to talk about today, which, by the way, is just supported by one pillar. We've got to put it all together. So I have got a big file, a really, really large studio file, where we're going to put everything that we've done with the prison and its exterior together for the first time ever. So let's get straight to that, and then we've got some decorating to do. Just look how big it's gotten. Now, before we go into the details, I suppose I should address that this is actually a slightly older version of this file where the Hinox room wasn't quite complete, but at least you get to see in at a different angle, which I thought might be interesting for you. See a little bit more of how the hinges were constructed, of course using that pink just to make things easier for me, and you can see the details are all here. However, of course, this one connects up with all of the other rooms that we've done. So you'll notice coming out of the Hinox room that this corner is now completely masonry bricks. You've got a couple of reversed ones in there, but this room was open before, but now it's completely in and sealed at the same height as everything else needs to be. You've got the 3 gates in, which look really, really nice when they're completely flush in a wall. I really still like the way they look. And you've got that, of course, then coming into the main prison corridor, which is also complete. And wow, was it hard to find the right arch for this wall here. Previously this thing was just open, however I stuck some different sized bars out the top and managed to make the 1x12 arch work perfectly for where this treasure chest will be. As for the rest of the prison, this middle section particularly remains completely unchanged. I did a bit more stuff on the rock work, however it's pretty unnoticeable. Just some little height adjustments for what we'll be working on next week with putting the roof on this thing. However, the biggest thing about this file is just seeing it all together, seeing how all of these rooms now flow. Like you can come in the entrance of the prison down here, and if I just set this as our origin and rotate, you can see not only down this corridor with all the wooden spruces, but you can change and go through down here, which now has a roof on it as well. This metal bar segment is now completely built in. Then you turn the corridor down our prison cells, and then go all the way down to the end where you can see your Hinox trial awaiting you. And then you've also got this metal grate round here. I just love the fact that they're all connected now, and you've of course got the Hinox room over here, which is a shame it's not its completed version. However, there's also some new stuff which I've added. As I've been preparing to do the slope and up, I decided to take a little bit of a risk and start the soldier tunnel, which is what we decided would be this back area, obviously behind the prison side, where you've got all your cells. The soldiers need to be able to patrol and then go and get their lunch when their shift's over in the prison. So that's what this is the soldier tunnel, and obviously, like we've talked about before, in the Breath of the Wild game there are rubble piles about here, and we are making the pre-calamity assumption that this tunnel just flows. So anyway, there are some more details added to this tunnel. Once again, I added the little chains that would look like handrails. This is a technique I employed in the docks, and it returns here again in the prison section for supporting this tunnel wall. This of course will then turn into the normal brick side because that's what we have over at this end. However, I have now determined the full width of the tunnel on both sides. You can see here that this wooden support beam, which is exactly what you would see in game in this type of tunnel. There are multiple types of tunnel in Breath of the Wild. I've talked about it before in the other videos, and it's heavily mentioned in creating a champion. I've just built these A-frames out of pillars along with this little construction here, which isn't actually load bearing but does make it look like an A-frame support. Anyway, those add a little bit more colour and a little bit more detail to this tiled tunnel, which now has all of the 1x2s on it. And you can see it comes over here to this corner, which of course we'll take a look at this detail in just a second, before turning off towards the water tower, Zelda's study, and then the west passage, which goes off snaking in this direction. I have no idea even how we're going to begin to tackle that. On the wall here, though, we have a little bit of splash of colour and another one of the important details. This is the soldier's crest, so not the knight's crest, not the royal guard's crest, but the soldier's crest, which would appear on the walls of these tunnels pre-calamity, according to creating a champion. You do see a couple of them in game. However, here is the design we've gone for. I don't know what would be appearing on the shield. Probably the black falcon shield. It's probably the closest. However, you've got the crossed swords and this pentagon piece to represent the blue soldier's banner that comes out from the bottom of these. I'll try and find a reference image to put on the screen. But if you imagine these all down some of these corridors, I think it will look very impressive. You're going to have some of them on this side as we go along as well. And of course, you've got the A-frames too. And this little slope down to where we're going to be as there's a little drop down in game. But that's the entire prison file together, looking mighty impressive if you ask me. I think there's a lot to like here, and it just shows you how complex the interior of the castle is. It's not just this linear path that goes through. You've then got this offshoot which is blocked over here where you go through the prison, and you've got each of these individual cells, and these are all rooms that need their own correct level of detail and walls, and they all have to work together and fit together, and it's a really interesting puzzle. I think also soon we'll do the rockwork around the outside, not this week for sure, because I have particularly wanted to show us this file because we've got some work to do out here. It is time to add some trees. In Breath of the Wild, we can clearly see there are 2 or 3 trees outside the prison segment here, and they are all charred because of the Guardians, but pre-calamity, of course, they'd be blooming and be green as well. So we are going to jump in, and we're going to split off this plate again into its file, and we are going to add some greenery. So let's do that right now. So as they went next to each other, I decided to put both of these plates in together when I was doing the greenery, mainly because of this tree here and the fact that the join was over here, and I didn't want to just do one tree. But anyway, we've got a new custom tree design to take a look at, and of course I've added the green colour as well, which is obviously going to be prevalent on most of the outside areas of Hyrule Castle. And once again, I really want to address, just like with the A plate we did a couple of weeks back, this green and dark grey works along with the light grey. Oh, such a good colour combo. Anyway, we're back outside the prison. Here's your prison entrance, would go off here. The files get a bit big, so occasionally I have to split the plates off, and what I've done is I've just followed the path through. Obviously we still got to add some shrubs and some flowers, but I'm going to save that for a future week. However, the bigger concern and bigger addressment point I needed to make this time was the trees. Now the scaling for the trees was particularly difficult because they've got to be big enough that they don't look tiny next to a minifigure, who in this case would probably come up to just about the top of the tree. As I said, this is pseudo minifigure scale, so take it with a grain of salt. But the idea was to have them slim without overpowering the landscape, because obviously it'd be very easy to do a nice thick custom tree, like a proper one, like at least 6x6 studs, and it would just dwarf the entrance, and that's not what we wanted. So we wanted this slightly smaller tree. So these trees are inspired by the Jurassic World set from 2020, the Ankylosaur and Indominus Rex battle set with the gyrospheres, and these trees are built around a core of 1x1 snot bricks, which have slopes at the bottom to make them look like roots, and these are just resting on tiles, so that it looks like the roots are going into the ground. You've got 4 of these on each side, which makes the corners look a bit blocky, but we can always use wedge slopes to fix some of these out on other trees, just to add a bit more variety, and that occurs on all 4 sides. We then got these leaves up like they're miniature branches. Obviously at this scale they're not actually on branches, but I did also stick a branch out here through this leaf just to make it look a bit more interesting. And then as you reach the canopy, you can see one of these larger leaf enemies just sits on the top of the sub-assembly. And then I've got one of these 6-pronged bushes, which is just sat in the middle and has a variety of this smaller leaf piece here, and the 3-prong leaf as well, which is really common in light green. And this tree is actually just exactly the same over here, however I've rotated it. Probably should get rid of this side branch just to stop it from looking just a tad too samey. However, when they're rotated, they've got a completely different canopy look, and I really like the way they came out. So we've got 2 of them here. There were a couple more trees, I believe, on the actual original art. I think there's like 1 over here. However, again, scaling issues are just difficult to work with. We've also done a lot of other stuff here too. Now, before now, we would not have seen the slope over here. However, the bigger thing is, of course, the path. Now, I decided to go with a bit more broken up approach just to make it look like the path is a bit more cobbly and overgrown. It's not a main path around the castle, not like these interior ones. So you've got some higgledy-piggledy different grey tiles that then head up both towards the docks here and also up towards another wall segment, which will be around this way. And that's the last thing I want to do today, is start this slope section, which is going to curl around. One thing that I've done is also, as I've decided on the height for this segment here, you can see I've tiled it all off. You can see them all over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tile layer and I'm going to copy it into another file, extend it this way, and then that will give us our shape for the rest of this rock work. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue this slope up in the pattern according to my 3D model file, which I'll put up on screen now, and that will show me roughly what needs to happen here and at what height it needs to reach this top layer. So I'm going to go and do that, and I will show you the finished product of this next slope. And I promise we'll add some more colour and plants here in the future. I want to come back and do this wall. There's just so many different files to fiddle with. Anyway, let's go and do that now. It's a bit underwhelming, but here it is. So we just left off with the slope and we said that it was going to come up this way, and you can see here that I extended the rock work off right from where it left off, so you can imagine that the tile is completely flat and level. And obviously, don't worry, this will eventually come in the same file. Obviously, it's not done yet. I haven't done the height on this side. This has got to come up to about where my mouse is, like nearly to the top of the screen, because obviously this side of the plate is much higher than this one here. But anyway, this is a start. It just sort of gives me a look for what this is going to feel like. This is obviously a grassy path, which is going to lead up to a tower segment, which is going to be up here. However, that's very complicated, and we'll be leaving that for a future week. I think we've definitely done enough for today. Anyway, that tiling goes off here, and there'll be a big Technic frame that will go on here next week. Again, I've tiled it off here as well so that we can do a similar sort of thing, and the Technic frame can overlap. However, that is all for the future. I have not done the tiling yet. I did bring a couple of them over just to sort of join them together. Obviously, I built with those 2 plates next to each other to begin with, just to get happy with the height contrast, and then I'd moved this one over into its own separate file, and then just sort of continued up. Now, my file told me it needed to continue round and curve round, and reaches this height at about halfway through the plate, and I think it does. It reaches its height about halfway through the plate. So that's good. This plate doesn't come in contact with the jail either, so there was no worries. However, obviously you can see it is turning off into what will be the soldier's passage. So let's just hope it's high enough that we don't need to add any support beams into that corridor, because it would be a shame to have to ruin the interior just for the exterior support. And it does actually bring up an interesting question about whether Nintendo blocked out this corridor, because remember how we said this corridor was rubbled off, and it would be rubbled off pretty much exactly where this path crosses over it. And because of that, it makes me wonder if they rubbled it off just so they could have the path come over the top, and maybe this castle's actually physically impossible as a build, at least based off the way Nintendo did it. Obviously, scaling allows me to get away with things, but it brings up the interesting concept of whether they got rid of that corridor on the inside of the prison just to avoid clipping errors from the hill above. It's a theory. I think it's a theory. Or maybe it was game design. I think it's most likely game design. But it's a curious little thing that not people will know about the castle, because no one's tried to do something so stupid with it before. Anyway. Simple rock work again, there's not much to share here. However, this is of course an important plate. Next week, of course, so many different things to take a look at. We will see what will happen. But anyway, let me know what you think of the completed prison down below in the comments, as well as all the other bits we worked on today. I think I love seeing the green come to life. Let me know what you guys think of the trees as well. I know they're not the best custom trees in the world, but you've got to remember there's going to be so many of these on this thing, and we're really looking at the back of the model right now. Why did I start with the back? Feels like a weird decision. Anyway, let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.